Jag byter språk till engelska. Jag har en engelsktalande gäst här efter. AI is everywhere you look these days, from dramatic CEO announcements to everything being powered by AI. So it's now time to welcome our next speaker, who will explore AI and HR beyond the hype, sharing insights on HR's role in an increasingly AI-driven world. You will learn how to stay critical, challenge assumptions, and create real value for your organization. So please join me in giving warm welcome to Thijs Stalenhoef from Sympa.
Okay, looks like we're all set to go. Plug in my laptop here. Yeah. All right. Well, it says stay tuned. We're going to get started right away because I know we're a bit behind schedule already. First of all, my name is Thijs Stalenhoef. I'm Dutch. I'm the CPO of Sympa. Sorry to do this in English. I could have done it in Danish, but I wanted to spare your ears. So, all right. I'm the Chief Product Officer of Sympa, but today my presentation is not going to be about our product. I felt that, okay, there's going to be so many speakers here showing you amazing AI demos, talking to you about all sorts of insane things they're doing with AI, promising you, the moon and the stars. And what I really wanted to do instead was to actually give you a little bit of a counterbalance, arm your mind to question and to do this in a good balance. So today I'm not the Chief Product Officer, I'm actually going to be the Chief History Officer. And when I mean history, I mean we're going back, all the way in time, back, way back to 1848. And specifically to Northern California, where in a small place called Sutter's Mill, they discovered gold. And the newspapers were all over it. The whole country from San Francisco to LA resounds with the sordid cry of gold, gold, gold. This was like absolutely historical find, and everybody all of a sudden started moving. So many people all of a sudden felt that they could strike it rich if only they could get to that little tiny place down there. One problem though, most of the people in the US at that time lived on the eastern seaboard. So you think, okay, you can just go across and somehow you would, get on a horse or something and gallop to the other side of the country, right? Not so much. That was a journey that took me between 7 and 9 months. And you were very likely to die of cholera along the way. This was a major problem, cholera. So 7 to 8 months, maybe 9 months to get there if you made it at all. But of course, these were entrepreneurs. These were people who were going to get rich, so they found another way. Instead, they figured out that you could take a boat, maybe from New York, sail it all the way around somewhere down here, Cape Horn, the very tip of South America, up again, and then all the way to San Francisco over there. That would take between 4 to 6 months. You're still quite likely to die of cholera, but, you might get there a little bit more quickly. Now, of course, this still didn't stop anybody from going. Actually, they found an even smarter route. If you went from New York all the way down there to Panama, then got off the boat, hacked and slashed your way through the jungle, not die of cholera along the way, and you would get to Panama City on the other side, and then you could board a boat there. Now the journey is only 6 weeks. The boats over there were heavily oversold. People, couldn't get tickets. There were riots, violent riots, with people that wanted to get on board the last ship out of Panama City. And when we got to San Francisco, many of the people that were on these boats, of course, they got off, started, marching towards where the gold was found. But also the crew of the boat would abandon the boat and would join the gold hunt themselves. So there were endless giant ships lying in the harbor abandoned because everybody was so obsessed with becoming rich with gold. A tiny sleepy town called Yerba Buena had a population in 1848 of 1,000 people. Not long after, 2 years after, 1850, it had a population of 60,000 and was now called San Francisco, as we all know it today. In total, over 80,000 people moved from one end of the country to the other, sometimes even from further places like Europe or Asia. Imagine if the entire town of Lund were to up sticks, pack up all their stuff and move to Lisbon overnight. That's kind of insane now. Imagine that almost 200 years ago. It was total chaos. The hype got people to do crazy things just to get rich. But of course, the gold dried up very quickly. Only the first few people got a good amount of gold, and everyone else basically lost everything. Only the very few got rich. And we've seen this many times throughout history. If it wasn't the gold rush, it was the railroads, it was the electricity boom in the 1880s. You could have thought about cars. There was a massive car boom with hundreds of car brands, and now we only have a handful of them left today. Radio in the 1920s. Some of you may know about the stock market crash in 1929. That was largely driven by radio stock going completely kaboom. Personal computers in the 1970s, and probably much fresher in everybody's memory, the dot-com boom in the 1990s. I almost lost my own business in the dot-com boom, so I kind of know a little bit what I'm talking about. So these are very, very interesting movements, right? Every time, everybody thought that this time it's going to be different. You know, you just don't understand. You know, it's going to be completely different from before because of this, that, and the other. And every time you see it's the same movement again and again. And each time, many people actually lost everything, and very few businesses actually survived. Only very few people actually got rich. So this is what you call a hype cycle. Very famous from Gartner, but of course it's a much bigger concept. So basically it starts at the very end there with a trigger. Something happens. In this case, AI gets invented. You have huge inflated expectations, right? There's something real that has been done. Electricity has been invented. It's a real thing. It's an incredibly valuable thing. But our expectations of it far outstrip its abilities. Then there is a peak. The peak hype at the top, when you don't even know what's real and what's not anymore. You start believing in this hype. Usually then it follows with some disillusionment. People lose hope. Hey, it didn't actually work as well as we thought it did. And we have this huge trough here of despair. And after that, you get what is called enlightenment. So this is not to say that any technology or any hype that you've seen is nonsense. No, it's just that it's going to go through this huge wave. And once it gets back up there from enlightenment to productivity is where you get the real payoff. Not there at the top, where everybody else is thinking, okay, we need to do this right now or we're going to lose out. Rarely anyone loses out at the top. If you lose out, it's because of that huge drop over there. So each of these waves that I just talked about changed our workforce. Companies who actually understood that really deeply and build real products and real businesses instead of just following the hype, they're the ones that won out. Of course, today it's AI that is poised to change our workforce, right? And this is why, of course, I'm talking to you today and I'm having this whole story, is because I want to actually tell you about that. We already had some from Charlotte, if I pronounced that correctly. My Swedish isn't great. You know, some of the amazing things that have been said, right? AI is going to solve world hunger. AI is going to add 15 trillion to the world economy, etc., right? It's absolute craziness. On the other hand, we've had some pretty famous cases. That was the one that Charlotte mentioned. 95% of all AI pilots fail. IBM thought they could do without HR. You could laugh. Yeah. Laid off 8,000 HR employees only to rehire them because they figured out, oh shit, there's something called a human and we need some other human to actually work with them, and AI can't really do that. There's been a lot of warnings about bubbles. Klarna, of course, a famous example here in Sweden, and so on. Sam Altman, the head of AI, OpenAI, actually said, yeah, AI is in a bubble. You're seeing this every time. So AI is about there. It's about going down here. So this is not about AI doesn't work. Of course, it actually adds real value if you do it right. But you need to survive that little dip here and get to that productivity part where you're going to win. And I'm going to help you with that. So how do you ensure your company wins out in the end? And why is that HR's problem? Well, I'll tell you why. HR and AI strategy, if you think about AI strategy is workforce strategy at the end of the day. And workforce strategy is strategic HR. So this is a huge responsibility that I feel belongs to a large degree with HR. If you have a CEO who's coming in and say, we need to fire 50% of all our people because of AI, or we're going to do 3x of our results at the end of the year because of AI, we need to put AI on everything, right? These are not useful things to work with. Yet you might actually have them in your own business, right? This huge pressure to do something right now. If you put AI on everything, you get these stupid little icons at the bottom of every application. That's a chat bot, and you click it, and it says, hey, I'm the AR bot. What is a parental leave policy? Well, I can't have children, but congratulations, right? Not super useful. This is not the way that AI is going to change the world. This is the type of thing that happens at the top of that wave, that peak hype. This is the sort of thing you get. Where we will be when it gets to the productivity zone, we don't know. Nobody knows. Right? There's going to be loads of different ways that you can implement AI, and we will see what that'll be in the end. But it's chaos for the moment, right? You don't know what to believe. So what I believe is that HR is the guardian of the workforce. You're one of the few places that can stop some of this chaos and say, hey, look, let's actually think this through. Let's actually think about our people, our actual needs, right? And let's not get blinded by the hype. This is an important function for HR. You're standing up for the workforce, and you're actually the person that is able to say, hey, we can do this together. We can work in a way whereby AI is actually adding to that workforce. We're not here to destroy that workforce just because somebody yells AI at the top of their lungs. Yeah? I think HR is really the conscience of a company. You're guarding that workforce, you're representing all of the people that work there. And if you can't stand up and say, hey, that is actually not very smart doing this, it's not very human, then, you know, who else is going to do it? Nobody is going to do it for you. But how do you then avoid the pitfalls? That's what I would like to talk about. So first of all, you need to own the change. If there is this movement in your organization to start doing more with AI, don't lie in front of the train. Work with people. Be skeptical of outrageous claims, right? AI is just like any other tool. You don't need to understand the technology to ask very simple, very real questions, right? Ask for a clear ROI. You do this everywhere else, any other tool you buy. AI is no different. Make the vendor actually tell you why this is useful, why you should be spending the money, whether it's safe, etc. These are things you can ask without knowing anything about the technology. Hey, that's just like buying an HR system. If you have claims like this, our agents will automatically learn and everything will get better over time and, magic, moon, stars, whatever. Oh, really? Tell me. Let me. Show me. Reject magical thinking around this stuff, right? It has real capabilities, but discover what they are. And be very careful with the idea that AI will magically fix something that is broken. This is actually one of the key things that I see again and again in companies trying to implement AI. This is why 95% of these pilots fail, is because they take something that's horrendously broken, put AI on it, and hope that it will magically fix everything. It will not. Why is that? Well, unfortunately for me and for all of us, AI can't fix stupid. That's basically the very simple version of this. And Charlotte actually already said this, because if I ask why, again, it's because AI needs data to learn from, right? You need to put in a lot of really good data, and unfortunately, if you have bad processes, you have bad data. And that means that AI can't learn properly. It will learn the bad stuff, not the good stuff. It won't magically turn bad into good. So taking care of that data, doing something real with it, that is super important. And it's a major hidden cost of any AI implementation. It's often not something that they tell you about, but you need to be prepared to do huge data cleanup or even data gathering exercises to actually get to a place whereby the AI can do its job in the best possible way. On the other hand, once you have a process that works really well, AI can turbo boost it like that. If you have a sales process that works amazingly well, AI can easily give you another 30, 40, 50% on top. No problem whatsoever. So it can sort of turbo boost your Ford Model T here. So fix the processes first and then put AI on top. That is a far better way of working than magically expecting a bad process to turn into a good one by sprinkling AI fairy dust on it. Okay, I hear you say, all fine, we want to be skeptical, we want to reject magical thinking, we want to fix our data, we get all of this. But what should we actually focus on then? Now, you'll hear plenty about how to implement AI inside of HR during the rest of the day. I want to go wide and look at your whole organization. So what should you focus on? Well, luckily for us, we've been working with our owners, PSG Capital, and they have actually done a huge survey on all of their portfolio companies, and they've shared the results with us, and I can share them with you. So they've actually looked at what works and what doesn't in terms of AI today. Number one at the very, very top, probably doesn't surprise anybody, customer support automation. Anywhere between 20 to 70% of all tickets automatically deflected, meaning 20 to 70% less work to do. Code generation, if you're in a software business, you have a lot of engineers, you will get between a 10 to 50% productivity increase. This is nothing to sniff at. This is a huge amount of extra engineering power that can ensure that you are doing way better in the market, deliver better products. So this is an important part that everyone in the software industry needs to be using. Anything to do with marketing, creating content of different kinds, whether it's video or audio or text, in a mid-sized business, you can easily save 100K a year, if not more, by using generative AI. These are real savings that you can apply anywhere. Salesforce automation, sales workflow automation, 20% reduction in sales lead times. Again, these are real numbers, not hyperbole. This is actual measured numbers, right? 20% reduction means you actually get your sales faster and you get the money on the table faster, right? This is something that really helps your business. And internal knowledge agents, right? These are also called RAG tools, and there's different kinds. So these are kind of agents that go through all of the content that you have and help answer questions for you. In the HR space, that could be the HR handbook, but it could be any knowledge inside your organization that until now has been really hard for people to find. So think about that as a sort of search engine on steroids. 20 to 80% efficiency gains. So these are real examples of stuff, not vendors screaming that they can 10x anything. These are actual companies, our sister companies, who have been doing that. Now, if you see these kinds of numbers, 20 to 70, 10 to 50, etc., you should immediately think, my mileage will vary. When you go and do this, you will see something in that range. Don't assume it's going to be 70%. 20% is already great. So adjust your expectations and try before you actually move ahead. Which is why the first thing you should be doing when you do this is to do a pilot, right? It makes total sense. Do a pilot, set some measurable goals and say, we're going to move this needle with AI, or that's what we're going to try and do, and we're going to measure the outcome. Once you've done that, you want to look at the strategy that you want to employ. Is this about quality or is it about cost control? This is a very important point, especially for HR, right? In other words, do you want to do more with what you have, or do you want to do the same with less? This is often a discussion that is not being had, right? We implement AI and then all of a sudden we decide, okay, now we need to let go of a whole bunch of people. Decide this up front, what it is you want to do. And then you get to the part where you need to collaborate with your leaders on workforce planning, because this is workforce at the end of the day, right? It impacts your workforce directly. Adding AI means that your workforce planning will change. You're going to hire fewer people, perhaps. You may need to do a round of layoffs, for all I know. Plan this out. Don't sit and wait. Figure this out as part of the plan. And do that together with your leaders. And of course, the key product placement is that Sympa's collaborative HR allows you to work with leaders to solve these kinds of problems. Now, once you've done that strategy and you have your pilot results, you have some questions that you can ask, right? And you can have your own, of course. Here are some that I put in there to help you get started. So what are the projected savings and improvements that you're looking to make? How do we apply the strategy that we've picked? Are we going to reduce cost or are we going to improve quality? How does that then change your workforce needs, right? This is well within your comfort zone, right? Building a workforce plan is exactly where you should be at. That's a strategic HR function you should all be performing. What are your timelines and how do we validate success, right? Don't go with the hype, actually get real. Because real things get real results and get you to the other end of that huge wave as a winner, not as a loser. So what are the projected savings and improvements? Let's say we'll invent a project here, and it's a project around customer support. And let's say that the pilot has shown that you get 20% ticket deflection. There's some mistakes, so we need better input data, right? That's a good start. Let's start there. How do we then apply the strategy? So the team has a backlog, and so we're not looking to let go of anybody. We're just looking to get rid of that backlog, do more with the same, or sorry, we do more with less, right? Sorry, do more with the same amount of people. That was the point. So quality improvement first. How does that change the workforce? Well, we can stop hiring. We need to, of course, train everybody. Again, training, very much an HR core business, right, if you like. One person we would actually retrain to be responsible for data quality. We heard that in the presentation just now as a data steward, I believe. My Swedish isn't great, but I think I got that right. Yes? Okay, I see a nod there, great. So maybe we need a data steward here that is going to manage all that data, make sure that it is clean so we get perfect answers instead of slightly dicey ones. Similarly, what are the timelines? You know, maybe we need 1 month to improve the data, 2 to remove the backlog. We want 1 month of steady running to make sure everything is fine. So let's check back in 4 months and then see what the next step could be. Maybe we've learned something. Maybe we can apply AI somewhere else, right? But here we have a clear project timeline with clear deliverables, you know, smart goals if you like, and it's going to drive your success. How do we validate it? Well, very easily, right? The backlog is going to 0. Our customer satisfaction and response times didn't drop, so we know that we're doing a good job, right? Very simple metrics. You don't have to come with a full dashboard. Just make sure that you can measure something and you can see the impact AI has. All right, so let's summarize. Start with the principles, be part of the change. Don't lie in front of the train, become a part of this project, jump on board. But be skeptical, realistic if you like, reject all these magical claims, investigate for yourself, and be realistic. Focus on getting good data in so you can get the best possible results. And once you found something that works, use AI to turbo boost it. Big and important point. You have your focus areas around your business, from customer support, engineering, content generation for marketing perhaps, sales and internal knowledge agents. These are all known good places to go and look for these efficiencies. And in terms of actions, pilot first, figure out what your strategy is and apply it, and then work together with leaders to get it done. Here are some of the questions we talked about. You can come up with your own. It's not that difficult at the end of the day. But you should feel that you have license as HR to get involved and to be that guardian of the workforce that I strongly believe you are. So, before I close, I want to go all the way back to the beginning. Because as I said, many lost everything in the gold rush. There it goes. But that's not the end of the story, because some people did win out. Some people actually were smart. They listened to their customers. They built real businesses instead of building on hype. In particular, one guy, and that's this guy, he came all the way from Germany, and he had this idea that he could sell tents to all these miners, right? And so he came over there, started selling these tents to all these miners, and found out they were not really interested. I've lived in Northern California, I can tell you, most of the time you don't actually need a tent, right? It's pretty warm over there. So maybe these guys were not that interested. So he tried to figure out what did drive a needle for him. Well, he found out that although they had places that they could live, what they didn't have was proper clothing to do the mining. So he came up with the idea of using the tent fabric to make pants. And I guess by now you have guessed that this guy is called Levi Strauss, and the company he built is Levi's. And here, almost 180 years later, I'm willing to bet quite a few of them are wearing them right now. So, don't believe the hype, build real companies, and wear jeans. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Thijs Stalenhoef. Are you wearing Levi's or?
Actually, in my case, I'm wearing Japanese denim, but yes, I am wearing jeans today.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Thijs. Now you closed your computer, but if you look at the different stages in this cycle, which in the room, where would you, do you agree that we are in at the highest peak at the moment? How many of you agree, if you raise your hand? Not that many. So are we before the curve or after the curve? After the curve, raise your hand. So you have started to misbelieve or sort of, or have you started to, how many has started to be skeptical now? Not,
yeah, quite a few.
It's not that easy to, and so maybe we're on the rise, so to say. So let's see. Yeah. So thank you very much, Thijs. You talked about many interesting things. So, and you talked about the pilot framework. And maybe this is where you find your partner now to start your pilot project. So is there somewhere you advise them to start? Is it recruitment, onboarding, or how to?
If you wanted to go inside of the HR side of things, you mean? Yeah. I think, right now the use case around recruitment seems to be working quite well. And also, I would say, at the LMS side of things, right? Sana, of course, was already mentioned. We're working with 360 Learning in Sympa, and they also have a ton of tools that allow you to create trainings more easily with generative AI and so on. These are clear cases that work. In some other places, core HR, etc., I'm a little skeptical still.
Okay.
We're working, of course, on our own solution, but in the meantime, I'm just going to be very curious to see what people have come up with.
Yeah, let's see what happens. And Charlotte talked a lot about the competencies as well.
Yeah, competencies is a fair point. Yeah.
Yeah, we will meet you at the panel discussion in the afternoon, so look forward to that. So again, thank you very much, Thijs Stalenhoef.
Thank you.